Hey everybody, this is Erik of Adobe Doodles, and I want to go through my artistic process for an art commission. This specific how-to will focus on my comic book style that I use for the Survivor comics that go on the Reality T Survivor blog online. So this is that process, because I've had a few people online ask, what's the whole, from sketch to coloring to the final version, how do you make these comics and what takes place? So that's what this is. So for this specific commission, it is a Survivor 40 full cast picture, and I need to have the Winners at War title. So that's where I started, is getting this logo. And the idea is to kind of make it like a movie poster, so like an action movie type of poster, and it's an idealized scene. So I started with the sketch phase, and the sketch phase is all about penciling and loose layout to get everything placed where you need it to be in your scene. And especially with a scene that has 20 characters, that's a lot of things to include. So the penciling is super important in terms of laying out where everything goes. And this is temporary. Some of this stuff is going to be lost in the inking phase, because the inking will be more permanent and replace a lot of this. But with the pencil, you're able to make mistakes. You can put an arm somewhere and then realize, oh, that arm shouldn't go there, or it needs to move because Denise's leg is there. Things can move around. It's pretty flexible. Because there's 20 characters, I can't focus on every single one. So I decided to focus on the final 5. So spoiler alert, if you recognize anybody from this, that's the final 5 of season 40. But the rest of the people are kind of periphery characters, so they're kind of put along the outside. I really hope periphery is a word. But the penciling phase is really simple and straightforward. You just pencil in as much as you can. And with my style, I like to throw a lot of stuff at the wall. So I like to put in a lot of detail to take it out in the inking phase, or ignore it, I can. So this is the inking phase. And this is where you put in, the hard details. I use Sharpies. I use the fine point Sharpie and the ultra fine point Sharpie. I used microns before. A lot of comic artists use microns, but for me, microns are a little fussy. I just don't like them. I like the big, bold lines that Sharpies provide. And the ultra fine point Sharpie does stuff that some of the microns can even do. And for my taste, I'm just not a fan of these really tiny, tiny fine lines. I like to let the color kind of speak for some of the details too. So that's why I'm not necessarily in the micron camp. I'm not a huge fan of them. I will use them, and I have used them on past projects. But here you can see I'm using the fine point Sharpie, like the thicker tipped Sharpie, to do some of the major lines to get in that work. And then later we can go in with the ultra fine point Sharpie and make some cross hatching to put in like the minor details, to put some contrast and some texture into stuff. That's really the benefit of the ultra fine point Sharpie. You can really do a lot of cool things with texture, depending on what the line is. So for instance, if I'm drawing Ben's beard and I want it to look scruffy and scraggly, you can make the lines you choose to put in there with the smaller tipped Sharpie can really, sell that texture as it's rough, it's hairy, it's furry. You can do that with clothing. You can make all kinds of great textures in clothing with an ultra fine point Sharpie. You can make all kinds of great textures for hair. Is the hair shiny? Swooshy, I would say. That definitely is a made-up word. And all kinds of different things like that. One of the other things that comes up in my drawings is this is a comic, so my style is not an absolute likeness of the person. You wouldn't confuse a picture of my face with a comic drawing of my face. A comic drawing has eyes, nose, mouth, but it doesn't have the little creases under my lines or the reflection of my glasses, that kind of stuff. So with the comic, you need to put in a lot of iconography detail. Like for Ben's character, we know he has the cowboy hat and the beard, so that hopefully signifies who he is. And then later when we do the coloring phase, you can add the right colors to him to make it so people know that that's Ben. He wore blue jeans or cowboy boots or what have you. One of the other things that I do in the inking phase is I use something called a Uniball Signo. That's a type of pen. It's from Japan, and it's a white ink pen, and it allows you to kind of not do what's called knockout color where you can add white in as detail. And you'll see in a minute I'm able to do that in some of the details around like Wendell's hair, or kind of help define some of the lines after I reset for a day here. Here you can see I'm erasing a little bit, getting that framework out, that penciling framework out of the way. Once you're able to put enough ink down, you can erase, because you don't need your frame anymore. You don't need your sketch underneath. And then you can see what's left on the page to fill in and what's left to detail, like the peanut butter, the hair in Tyson's leg, the design in Adam's shirt. Those types of little details with the ultra fine point really help. And they also kind of teach the coloring phase what to do. When I go to color this in the next step, some of these little tiny markers on the skin I'll know, okay, that's the line where I want to have, a shadow segment on the side there. When I do the Survivor comics after an episode, this all takes place after an episode, so I usually watch it gets done at around 9 o'clock, and then I would work on it until it's done and send it to Reality T to post on their blog. And so usually that time period is about 3-4 hours. So that's kind of the time period for this one as well. So here I'm using that Signo white pen to add some additional details in that you can draw right on top of the Sharpie and it shows up, which is great. Once the piece has been scanned in both parts, it's time to color. And color is like my favorite part, just because with color you can show so much emotion, you can show so much contrast, definition. You can do all kinds of great stuff with color. And it's really my favorite part of the whole process. I do enjoy every part, but as far as everything goes, color is wonderful. I just think things come to life when you give them color. So here I'm kind of touching up the logo, the Winners at War title logo that I've created. I wanted it to be more of like a movie poster kind of shape, like a sharp, like Avengers comic movie poster. So I'm trying to sharpen all these edges and angle it right so that it looks, not as rough as the rest of it, not as rough as the comic panel. So a lot of, by the way, so the coloring here is all done in Adobe Photoshop, if you haven't figured that out yet. So Adobe Photoshop is a great program that I use for coloring. There's a lot of programs people use for coloring. GIMP is a free program you could use. MS Paint is a great program in some respects. But I use Adobe Photoshop just because I've used it since high school. And it's kind of this open-ended program. There's always something new to learn in Photoshop. And I can't recommend it enough for coloring if you want to do comic book coloring that's reprintable. There's other ways to color stuff. I do stuff, with colored pencil, with watercolor, with ink. So you don't have to do everything digitally, but learning the digital coloring process will also benefit any kind of, handmade coloring that you would do with colored pencils or markers or something else. So here I'm putting in a frame just because Perplexor's puzzles, we wanted to get a frame for the puzzle to kind of keep everything together. And now we're coloring the actual comic. The first step that I went to here is adding in all this orange, and this is for the highlights. So with color, you want to focus a lot. I feel like it's really important to focus on highlights and shadow. And that helps you build definition. It helps you build focus. So with this, where you choose to put highlights helps people focus on, look at this. You can see Tony is colored with a lot of orange, with a lot of highlight. And he's near the torch, so that gives him a lot of focus, a lot of prominence. Whereas someone in the background might have more shadow or fewer highlights. And that kind of creates depth, that kind of brings Tony forward and pushes somebody in the back, farther back. And it also gives it, that sense of focus and sense of space. This is a 1-layer comic. A lot of comic artists do like 2 layers or 3 layers, where they'll separate the ink layer, which is all the black ink, from the white page, the white paper, and then only work on the white page behind the black layer so that you don't damage any of the black. It's a good method. I've used it before. I do it from time to time on other stuff. A lot of the time, a lot of the comics that I make for the Survivor comics, there is a time limit. It's a very short window of time, so I don't divide layers. I usually will work on only one layer. And so here you can see that I've basically been drawing all on the same layer using what's called the darken brush tool. So I'm basically using color with the darken setting, and so that means it only draws onto the white. It doesn't really affect the black, because the black color is as dark as it can be, so you can't really write over it. And then I have a reference image here of all 20 contestants, so I can match, the skin tone, what color their outfits are, what color the beard color is, those various colors, so I get them right. Because that really matters. You want to get the red right of Boston Rob's hat, or this dark red color on Adam's sweatshirt to match there. But yeah, it's, this is going by fast, but this is like a 3-4 hour process, start to finish. And each part brings its own, added, depth to the work until it's done. And over time you can see, those blues that are getting drawn over for the shadows make a richer shadow because there's blue underneath whatever color you put on top of it. So now we're putting in the background. So everybody's done, all the characters are colored. We're just kind of coloring in the ocean and the skyline, giving it kind of this nice sunset image. And again, here, color can create focus. So you can create dark shades around the outside and highlight. It almost creates, like having that sunset in the background creates kind of like a halo around the center. And then on top of everything, you could add a screen layer. The screen, if you add in screen highlights, it looks like it's glowing. It makes stuff look really glowy. And it's easy to go overboard. I go overboard all the time with adding the screen highlights. But they make a really cool effect. So, use it in moderation. And that's it. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please think about subscribing. It definitely helps out creators when you subscribe to their channel, or share it with a friend. Thanks for watching.